So I will start with a very brief presentation, and then I will give the floor to Jared Misiak, who's going to do the keynote presentation afterwards. Thank you all for being here, and it's good to see some familiar faces and, or at least some familiar names, and some others who are not that familiar. So good that we have always we can always give a welcome to new people to the stakeholder platform that we are building in Transcend. I'm going to share my screen, start with a very brief presentation about the project. As I was saying before, uh, we have some people who are new into the work that we are doing in Transcend. So I'm going to start with a very brief presentation of the work we have been doing, what the project is about, and where we are right now. So very briefly, Transcend is, as you know, a Horizon Europe project. It's coordinated by IMDEA, Madrid Institute on Advanced Studies on Water. But we have 15 partners with a budget of 5.3 million euro. We are working in 10 countries with 7 living labs. Many of them are transboundary. We are going to have a discussion in some of them today. And the core topic of the whole proposal is uncertainty. So how to deal with adaptation, transformational adaptation, a disruption in the way we respond to water scarcity and droughts in a context which is marked by growing uncertainty and now even more so. The objective I already mentioned is to achieve transformational adaptation, which we understand as adaptation approach that is truly new and or adopted at a significantly larger scale. So it can be something that is brand new to the location or something that was already occurring, but at a smaller scale than the one we envision in Transcend. So it's a flexible approach to the concept and can be implemented in many different ways. This is our ecosystem of innovation. Very briefly, many of you are already very familiar with it. So for some of you, maybe it's the first time that you see it, but basically Transcend works at 4 levels. We have 3 research pillars, and then we have the implementation of these 3 pillars across multiple living labs, 7 in total. So we have the knowledge network, which is the stakeholder networking I mean, it's a group of people with whom we are working and implementing the techniques that are developed in terms of monitoring, which is the second pillar, and modeling, which is the third pillar. So this ecosystem of innovation with 3 pillars is implemented in 7 living labs, as I was mentioning before, which you can see here. They are located all over the world. So it's a truly international project. We are not only working in Europe, we are also working in South America, Middle East, and East Asia. So this is the situation right now in terms of advancements into the project. As you know, in terms of the work, maybe you don't know, but I mean, I wanted to talk about it right now. In terms of transformational adaptation, we have to achieve transformational adaptation. We have a series of stages or steps. The first one is the co-development of the model. So basically, we are working with the local stakeholders to design collectively what are the models that they are going to use into the future for water resource management. So we are supporting them. We are not coming up with brand new models and advising any stakeholder to use them. Our work is quite different. We are working alongside the stakeholders to identify what are the models they are using, what models they would like to improve, and what models they may be missing, what sort of information, modeling or monitoring, they may be missing. And we co-develop this information with them. So from the beginning, we decide what's necessary together with the stakeholders. Then we start the co-design of any scenarios that may be relevant for decision making into the future, policy scenarios, socioeconomic scenarios such as changes in the prices of the commodity or the commodities or the inputs that they may be using. But also we work obviously with climate change scenarios and other ecological scenarios. These scenarios are developed together with the stakeholders. Then we use these scenarios and models to assess the performance of transformational adaptation policies, or TAP. So we could evaluate the performance of this TAP together with the stakeholders. And finally, our objective is to co-identify what are the transformational adaptation policies that work relatively better in the living labs and what transformational adaptation policies we would like to co-implement into the future. And this Webstival is precisely about this last step, about informing co-implementation and building legacy into the future. So our objective right now, you can see we have advanced significantly across multiple living labs in terms of co-development, co-design, co-evaluation, and co-identification in some of the labs. Now we are in the last year of the project, and the focus is going to shift from co-design and co-evaluation towards co-identification and co-implementation. And precisely the Webstival today is about building legacy and informing how the materials that we have been developing over these past more than 3 years can be used towards informing co-implementation at the level of institutional, technical, and financial implementation. We have three Webstivals, as you may have realized, you may have already seen in the agenda, and this first one is going to talk about financial capacity. Okay, so we are going to start in the next. We're going to start with a keynote now by Jaro Misiak. I'm going to stop here after the, I hope, brief, maybe not so brief introduction of the project. I will leave you here with this slide in case you want to engage with us. Please feel free to do so in our networks. And now we are moving to the next presentation, which is the keynote on funding of transformational adaptation projects, with a focus on bankability. So, Yaro, the floor is yours. I will stop sharing. Oh,
Thank
done
you.
already.
Thank you very much, Dionisia. And thank you for the opportunity to meet you and to see you. This is third Webstival already. So you might remember we lost the second Webstival took place in September. We had a very interesting talk by Magdalena Retzkowska, who is the head of the financial expert group of the Water Europe. And she already touched upon certain topics that might be of great interest for you as you are getting closer to the final phase of identifying the options for transformational adaptation, and also that would also require a lot of investment and resources. So this is why we start this Webstival from the financial perspective, and what we have prepared for you is a sort of overview about opportunities and how to tap into those opportunities and how to turn this opportunity into your work plan and exploit that for the success of what you're doing in your case studies. So you might remember me. My name is Jaro Misiak. I'm with the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change, I'm my background in environmental economics and climate risk assessment. So I will show you some interesting insight from what we are doing. So I understand I have about 20 minutes, right, Diony? Right. So
Exactly.
without further ado, so I prepared few slides and few reflection for you on the funding. And I organized my talk in terms of first starting with what are bankable adaptation projects, why they matter, what they are, and how to develop them. So this is very important. Everybody's asking for bankable adaptation projects, so we will be looking into those. The second area that I will touch upon are the opportunities from the mission adaptation to climate change. So they are tangible financial opportunity for you to tap into and become part of the um, accelerator for adaptation funding. But this is, of course, accessible to all countries in Europe. There are similar opportunities also from the Santiago network on loss and damage or from international projects. So it's equally important for you, even if you cannot access the EU funding. And finally, I will wrap up with some ideas and some, uh, project ideas that you might look into. There are plenty of others, but just to give you a flavor what could be done, we have included a few examples. So why bankable matter? So every time when you are seeing an opportunity, everybody is asking. There are plenty of financial resources available to help you and assist you in implementation of adaptation, but they require the input in certain form, and they call it bankable projects. So the first point is that for adaptation, we need a lot of investment. And the public sector will not be able to cover all those needs on its own. So it needs to be somehow combined, public and private funding. So one of the projects that is looking systematically into the need for financial endowment for adaptation is the UNEP Adaptation Gap Report. And the report is basically tracing the global progress on climate adaptation planning, financing, and implementation. And what you see on the right side is the cover of the 2025 report. Every year, they provide an in-depth overview and progress report. And from the latest one, they estimated that the adaptation financing needs that result from the national contribution, nationally determined contribution, and national adaptation planning account for roughly a little bit over 360 billion of US dollar per year up to 2035. Now, from the modeling side, the same amount of adaptation commitments have been addressed from with the models like we are doing in the transient case studies, and the estimated cost of adaptation was roughly in the same order of magnitude, 310 billion per year. So what you see on the right side, probably a very low right column, is the current international public adaptation finance, which is about less than 10% of this, 26 billion in 2023, and that might be increased by 4 billion with additional private funding. So this is what denotes the adaptation gap. We have similar estimates also for nature protection and preservation gap, biodiversity finance gap, and and also in the water sector, so water resource management gap, or if you want water reform gap, financial gap. So there is a huge, discrepancy between what is needed and what is available. And this is why financial innovation is critically important to achieving the sustainable water management goals. Right? You need to think out of the box, thinking how to bring the resources together and how to reshuffle them in order to meet the demand and deliver. So this is why bankability matter. But what is a bankable project? So I went back in the history just to check the really beginning of the banking and financial sector. So you might know that this comes from about 12th, 13th, and 14th century, especially in Italy, but then quickly spread a lot to other places. The banking sector or financial sector was typically exercised in the marketplace on a wooden table or bench, where, as on the picture of Matsis, so there is the banker, right? The person that is offering these financial services sitting there and exchanging the money or anticipating money or helping to transfer money. So the early financial services look like that. This is why we call bank, right? It comes from banco, right? The Italian word stands for table or bench. Now, what is funny is they were already at that time there was a sort of trust involved in providing financial services. You manage the financial resources on behalf of your clients. So if you mismanage the funds, what happened is the public authority came up to your table, right, and bench, and broken it, right, publicly destroyed it, right, in front of all the people. This is why we call bankruptcy. It's the act of breaking the wooden banco, right? It's just as a curiosity. We have plenty of financial services coming from that areas. Right. So that was origin, and that was right. Basically, the banking services are key for financial infrastructure. So what we understand as bankable in principle is something that the project is trustworthy, right? Has a sound preparation, has a credible financial structure, has measurable impact, has also ownership, right? National or regional, depending on what is the level of the of the investment, and then it also fits the priority of the institution that is providing the funding. So this is very important. It's not just in some cases we are combining public and private funding. You really need to also match the priorities of who is providing the support. In this case, I will be talking about mission adaptation, but again, you might also align these with other funding programs. So in principle, project is bankable for private sectors if there is a credible return profile, right? Meeting what the investor might expect, but also from the public side, if there is a clear alignment with the needs and the public services that are being entrusted. So I put on the slide several sources that you might look into in order to uh, look into more in detail what you need to learn about the bankable projects and how to guidance that can take you step by step to developing ones. We have number of adaptation investment pipelines. Pipelines means it's a facility that takes your idea and help you to develop a bankable project. So it's not required that you are at the finish line at the beginning, but it's a sort of number of programs help you to get there. So Global Center on Adaptation has technical assistance program. Invest EU Advisory Hub is another one for those that are working in Europe. C40 Cities Finance Facility. All those resources are also accompanied by the links here. You might look into those. And they are accessible globally. And they are taking you step by step, explaining how to develop and what is a bankable project and what is needed. So in principle, all these existing technical facilities, what they have in common is what I have put on this slide. Right, so you have two dimensions. From the horizontal axis is going from idea or concept to the investment itself, right? So making a progression on the maturity of your idea. That's the horizontal axis. And the vertical axis is from bottom, where you start with showcasing the public value, typically which is policy driven. There's a policy incentive for you to start looking into that. But eventually you want to reach the market and attract the private funding as well. So there is a movement from bottom up to up for the financial and market driven forces. So what I wanted to show is that when you are designing bankable projects, you are following a certain stages. In the first one, at the idea and public value concept, you're looking into feasibility studies, you look into climate risk assessment to demonstrate that this makes sense, governance, alignment of your idea and support, and developing the capacities. Then you go upwards, right? Towards still on the idea and concept side, but you are looking into more the market side of your idea. And you're looking into business models, check the revenue, logic and streams, explore the different ways of public-private partnership and aggregation of the different ideas into a lot different packages that the investor might look into. Then you go down back right to the sector on the right side. We try to de-risk your ideas. That means making it financially sustainable for the investors. That means you're looking for guarantees, insurance, define the ideas about first loss capital thresholds and so on. So you're looking really on the investment side, but still in terms of the idea and concept. And finally, again, upwards, you're looking into engagement and matchmaking with the investors. You're looking into how to create a portfolio that might be attractive for the investors and so on. So on the commercial and market driven side. So this is just to show that there is no linear development, right? From idea to the investment. You really need to go to shift between public and private thinking, and then get back to reassuring that the concept is viable, financially and economically effective, and then you are again looking into the commercial side. So it's a sort of zigzag development in this two-dimensional space. Right. There are plenty of barriers for developing a bankable project, and I pick up some of those from international experience, from climate policy initiative, climate uh, um, CPI, Climate Policy Initiative, has developed a lot of interesting source of experience and knowledge about creating the pipeline for adaptation funding. So I tap into that and try to condense some of those lessons learned from their side. Um, so first, we have um, a lack of projects that are investment ready or investment ready stage. And so there are plenty of good ideas, but all the aspects that I mentioned before have not been surfaced, have not been made clear to the potential investors. So this is something that we can help you to develop in the laboratories, in the transient, and we will be focusing on that this year, right? And between this Webstival and the final Webstival that we are planning in December. So you can fall back on us, and we will try to help you to think about what you can propose as the bankable project. The second barrier is that for the investors, like including the banks, like the European Investment Bank, is always complaining that the ideas are typically small scale. So they cannot deal with those without huge transactional cost. So what they would love to do is to do an investment in order of magnitude of several hundreds of million of euros, while the average project, the adaptation project that uh, they come across is just around 1 million. So this is a huge mismatch between the scale that investors are looking for and the project that need the funding. The third point was a weak project pipeline. So typically what you would like to is to have a number of options to look into and at different maturity stages. And so the pipeline should be steady, sustainable, should continuously provide you with ideas you can invest into, not just one exercise that stops at some stages. Then another barrier is very important. So many times when we are looking into adaptation, we are basically advancing the public good, right? Water security as a public good, nature conservation, or restoration of the ecological flow of the river. This is all about public goods, which are difficult to accommodate for the private sectors or private investors. So it needs to be very, very clear what is the return for on the private investment. It doesn't have to be only in the profit side. It also might be the in terms of social corporate responsibilities. So there's also attitudes, positive attitudes about investing into socially and environmentally beneficial project, what we call greeniums. So it all works, but it needs to be explained in these terms. And of course, there's a huge, high, high cost of performing the due diligence and preparation of the projects. So feasibility studies, transaction costs that I mentioned, all this contributes to um, making this exercise quite demanding. You might remember Talanoa Water Project. We have organized joint events and conferences. Also, the one that we organized last year, 2 years ago, in Venice. The first international conference was in collaboration with Talanoa. And in Talanoa, we looked also into in the policy book that we created on the base of our experience, we created into three types of capabilities. And financial capabilities were one of those, explaining what kind of capabilities you need to develop a bankable projects. But the same thinking is also somehow used and informed the design of this Webstival. We start with the financial capabilities, and we will continue tomorrow with the institutional capabilities and the technical capabilities at the end. And there are close links between what I'm going to tell you and what the speakers will be telling you tomorrow and the day after. So that's it's a good to imagine that the transformational or adaptation in general, and even more so the transformational adaptation, requires a systematic way of investing into capabilities, technical, institutional, and financial. And we start with the financial on purpose. So there are a number of skills and capabilities required, which I will refer you to the policy handbook that we prepared, but it requires project planning, financial structuring, valuation of benefits and co-benefits, governance, stakeholder alignment, and so on. Right. So that was a brief introduction into what is bankable, why we need bankable project, and what are the typical stages in preparing the bankable project. Now let's turn into the opportunities. In Europe, we have the mission adaptation. Mission adaptation to climate change is the full title. It's a part of the Horizon Europe project, Horizon Europe program, which is the research and innovation framework in Europe. So basically, all the money that are invested into research innovation for practical purposes. Mission adaptation has a huge endowment, 1 billion euro, which is good. We need that. It's also part of the innovation branch um, of the European climate adaptation strategy and the climate law in general. So as a innovation research innovation program it introduced a new way of working together side by side, the research innovators and performers with the public entities and authorities, in order to develop the policy applied knowledge, right? Exactly, develop the skills and knowledge that is needed to develop to advance the adaptation. So that is unique, and that was really very very good and played out. In meantime, we have about 70 projects funded from these, a number of opportunities that I will mention. You might remember I spoke about mission adaptation also during the Venice International Workshop. So you might recall that it's a huge opportunity for you. Just to recap, the mission adaptation has three objectives. So it gives something for everybody. So prepare for climate resilience, accelerate the transformation on the basis of in-dive demonstrator project, and then systematic transformation at scale, showcasing how this can be done at larger scale. So mission adaptation, keep it in mind. The two projects in mission adaptation that provided also financial support for you, for public entities, for organization wishing to not just be part of the research, but also be incentivized by resources and allocate resources for this, is Climax and Pathway to Resilience. Climax was incentivizing a better understanding of climate risk, and Pathways to Resilience was looking into advancing on the climate adaptation. In both cases, the projects distributed financial resources. Climax up to 300,000 euros per region, in the terminology of Transcend, you might say per pilot, right? And Pathways to Resilience, 210,000 euros. Just to bring the people and the relevant stakeholders and the actors together and start thinking about how to accelerate the adaptation and better understand the risk. Now, both projects have already distributed the available funding. So you might say, right, say, okay, so there was an interesting opportunity. I missed that. So what should I do now? It's true, right? Both projects have already allocated something like over 30 million euros to you to your peers. But there is a second stage where the climax will become climax next, and PTR will become adapt for EU, and there will be again the same level of opportunities, right? They will start probably. The calls will be published early next year, and you will be able to apply throughout the year. So you might think of how to prepare, use that opportunity, apply for the money, and eventually get the grant. But even if you don't get the grant, there is a lot of technical capability, technical facility that is providing the resources for you to improve your capabilities, both to conduct the technical risk or to institutionally align and so on. So the bottom line is there are new opportunities coming exactly for both sides, and you might be part of it. So get prepared for it, use that opportunity. And even if you don't get the resources eventually, because there's a competition for those, it makes sense for you to be part of the technical facility that is providing the support and helping you with understanding and getting you into shape. So what we have learned so far from those projects is that the competition is growing, right? There's been oversubscription from the beginning, but now it's getting to a certain level that are even higher. It's the cascading funds are perfect for pilots, like your pilot project, your pilot TAP, transformative adaptation options or policies. Uh, the allocation requires clear rules and short-term application, quick evaluation in order to get back to you and so on. The regions that are more advanced are in a better stage and better position to apply for those funds. So use the opportunity, but also get the help from this project and the other projects you might be involved in order to get prepared. You might also run into some difficulties in public procurement. So there are ways how to avoid that. We are working on those to make those grants easy for you to apply for and implement. Now, the new opportunity that is a part of Climax and P2R, there's a new project that will be that 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 will be granted by the European Commission, and these offer especially for the financial um, creating bankable projects, cascading funds in the order of magnitude up to 800,000 euros. So if you recall, the previous cascading funds were in the order of magnitude of 300,000 and 210. Now this is order of magnitude higher. It makes sense for you, right, to look into that. So it will facilitate a sort of your thinking, blending of public and private funding in order to fund a ambitious adaptation programs in your places. Your project investment needs might be something between 500,000 and 10 millions. So for that is the contribution of 800,000 is appropriate. And who is eligible might be you, public bodies, private entities, SMEs, authorities, and so on. So um, throughout the next activities of Transcend, we will be always flagging out this opportunity. But let's have a look on the timeline, right? Let's see how much time do you have to prepare for it. So the application for organizing this managing the cascading funds will close in September. This is not for you. This is for somebody who will organize the distribution of the funds. Then the Commission will sign the grant agreement at the beginning of 2027, say by June probably, and the consortium will publish the first call within 10 months. So you might expect by spring 2028, you will be able to submit your ideas. That means it gives you 2 years of preparation that you can use in order to get in good shape to apply for this one. And Transcend is going to help you with that, of course. There are other opportunities. Also, the water resilience strategies, preparing a call for targeted um, pilot projects. There will be 15 to 20. The call has not been yet published. We will share the information as soon as the call is published and we know more. So those are about the opportunities, right? It's tangible. It's concrete for you. You might be motivated to bring the options that you have been exploring with us in Transcend to a level that you can apply for this funding. And as last, couple of slides that I have, some motivational examples, what you can look into. So the first thing is you might think, okay, the biggest problem in my setup is that I need to change the allocation of water permits or the water rights. So it's a governance, right? Governance um, matter. It's not necessary, right? An investment into, I don't know, new dam or new um, water desalinization plan or something. But even in that case, water allocation reform can be framed as an investment program, right? You might need digitalization, or you might need intervention for improving the efficiency gains, avoiding certain losses and improving long-term water security. So there are plenty of ways how to turn this governance reform into bankable projects. So don't discard this, right? Um, that's something that you might really look into. Now, in the past, we have been also flagging out the insurance as a way of improving water security and at the same time also connected to the nature restoration, nature biodiversity protection. We have been working on that and we have during the last Webstival and workshops, we have reported about the different schemes, how to tap into risk transfer and financial risk management tools in order to improve your performance. So you might, that insurance is facing substantial challenges because the risks are rising and the insurers might also want to withdraw from certain areas. Um, but by using the insurance to as an incentive for reducing risk, you might extend the sustainability of the financial services, and you might also create a nice in link to what's going on the ground. So, for example, you might think of using insurance um, from the state to protect the agriculture activities, right? In the first place, when you are moving away from the unprotected agriculture property values to a agriculture insurance scheme and risk management schemes, you might extend and help the agriculture enterprises to adapt and to cope with a new wave of risk and risk intensities. And eventually, you might also incentivize them um, to diversify their activities and also promote certain restoration of ecosystem in certain areas that both contribute to reducing risk and and adapting to climate change. So you might think of those intervention as uh, governance plus technical realization, technical projects, measures implemented on the ground. And we have been looking in Italy, in this case, how to turn the idea uh, of flood risk protection and controlled flooding as the last resort to reducing the damage from extreme precipitation into something that helps you to modify your landscape, restore ecosystem services, store the water on the land, um, incentivize artificial groundwater recharge, aquifer recharge, and protect the downstream cities where the flood might cause a lot of damage. So all those intervention seems a complex scheme, but eventually it includes like governance, change in the way how we are managing water resources, how we are managing land, how we are how efficiently we are using the existing policy instruments, and adding on top of them something that might help even to scale the impact and amplify the impact. So with these is what I wanted to highlight it, there's a lot of innovation in the existing financial or policy instrument that might help you to get into a stage to be better prepared. And with that, I would like to close my intervention. We are happy to continue supporting you across the lab in the thinking, what you could do. We will also provide you with information and guidance how to apply for the financial support that I mentioned. So you might take this as the motivation for the last stage of the project to work even more closely with us in order to develop a lot of the ideas that might be funded either from European sources or international sources, and eventually help you not only to plan but also make that happen, make your ambitious plan happen at the ground. And with that, thank you very much, and over to you, Dionisio.
Thank you so much, Jaro. That was very useful. I think there was maybe a technical issue that we didn't cover at the beginning, which is, well, you don't have participants, you don't have access to the chat. So if you have any questions, please remember to drop them to the Q&A box, not to the chat. Well, you don't have access to the chat, so that's not visible. So we are a bit tight now, so I don't know if we have time to get any of these questions, but as a means of transition into the next session, maybe Yaro, I can make a couple of. Actually, I got one by chat through email while you were presenting. So I would like to convey this question to you. I mean, one of the participants was asking me what would be the first step to take among all these wealth of data you have been providing. So if someone is interested in financing a project, let's say on changing the water allocation, as you were saying in the end, especially with a focus on pricing, and they lack some of the capacities, the institutional technical capacities. Where should they start? What would be the first logical step? Because you have been mentioning Climate '07, Climax, mission adaptation. So among all these wealth of data, I mean, for someone who's not an expert on this, what would be the first logical step? Maybe the first step is to contact someone with expertise on this to go together hand in hand, but maybe there's other way.
Yeah. So we will be sharing the slide. You will find a number of accelerator programs, technical programs that help you to develop the technical and institutional capabilities in order to apply for these. Depending where you are sitting, right, you might need the accelerator program that is most accessible for you, right? Whether this is World Bank or the Resilient Cities or the European Mission Adaptation. So it really depends on that, but there are plenty of accelerator programs that, if you have a good idea, just sound and feasible, you might participate in the initial entry into the pipeline, and that will give you the access to all the facilities to develop the idea from technical, institutional, governance, and financial point of view. But if you are participating in this project can help you and assist you, right? So talk to your leader of your pilot, right? If you are participating in a transient pilot, first talk to the pilot lead, and the pilot lead will collect the ideas, and we will be happy to assist you through the project, right? I'll give you the initial access to the information that you might be looking for.
Thank you, Jaro. So I mean that's very sensible. So first step, contact to I mean persons inside of the project, and for those outside, perhaps the first contact point will be the accelerators, as you were mentioning, probably like. Okay, but I mean, for those already into the project, please follow Jaro's advice. We'll be working on this over the next months. But if you're already eager to take these steps forward, just feel free to contact us and make any questions. I was receiving no less than 5, 6 emails with telling me that people were not. I mean, for people asking how to participate in the chat. I'm sorry for that. But I mean, one of the questions they were making was this one. So I hope that the answer provided by Jaro already at least provided and I'm satisfied some of your questions. So we are moving now to the next session. Thank you for sharing the agenda here. So we're going to do a very brief survey that we have prepared. Um, Addressing precisely this issue of financial transformation and opportunities for financial transformation. So, for those of you who participated in the workshops that we have already celebrated in Venice and in Valencia, the international workshops, and also to some extent, at least in the Orontes, the local workshop, you already are familiar with this exercise. So, essentially, what we have been doing over the past few years in Transcend have been listening deeply to all of your concerns as stakeholders, trying to identify what were the barriers that you were highlighting as potential impediments for transformational adaptation. And we have been transforming all that into a repository of barriers, but also a repository of potential opportunities to address these barriers. And in the next few minutes, we are going to provide, we're going to show you a Mentimeter. So it's basically a survey in which we're going to show you some of these barriers that we have been identifying as potentially relevant for the labs. We are going to ask you to vote for their, I mean, according to the relevance that these barriers have to you and to your work in the living labs. And then we are going to discuss together the ranking that you have provided for these barriers and hopefully come up with a list of opportunities that work towards addressing them. So here you have the QR code and the link in case you want to connect through the website to our Menti. So if you have a cell phone here, you can just point with the cell phone towards the QR code, and then it will lead you to the survey. If you prefer to join online, you go to the web address that you have there, www.menti.com, and then you enter the code that you see with the big letters to the left-hand side. I see that lots of people are already giving the okay, so thumbs up. So it looks like many of you are already connected. Um, so I don't know, Melissa, Rudy, whenever you think it's because I don't see the number, it's not too small. Okay. So we have 13 people connected. I mean, the more the merrier. So those of you, we have over 40 people participating. So please, those of you who couldn't join, you can still see the Menti to the right-hand side. So please try to join because this information is very important for us. I mean, Jaro was showing in his presentation the report that we did with Talanoa in the Talanoa project, in which we had identified some of these barriers and opportunities. In Transcend, we have expanded the list, and we are conducting a validation with the stakeholders, which is something that we couldn't do in Talanoa. So it's important for us. It's very important in project as part of our co-creation to have your insights. So here, essentially, in this exercise, we are asking you to rank the financial barriers. In order, well, I mean, in order of relevance, basically try to put first that barrier that you think is hindering the most investments in water projects, according to your expertise, and according to your living labs, according to your point of view. So, I mean, we are going then to consider this information as well. You have here, as you can see, 6 different barriers. There are many more financial barriers, but based on the exercise that we already did in Valencia, we took those 6 that were more relevant according to you. So we asked stakeholders, at least those that came to Valencia and joined us there. The stakeholders there considered that these 3 barriers were the most relevant ones, and this is why we are showing them here in the slides. So what we are asking you is to rank these barriers. So thus far, 7 people have responded. So please, as I talk, if you can start responding, that would be great. Just as a reminder, we have here lock-in, so basically the institutional inertia that keeps actors tied to outdated practices. Then we have budgetary constraints. I guess that doesn't need a definition because I mean, most of you are probably facing this issue on your daily work. But yeah, sometimes the limited public budgets have to be allocated across competing priorities, and that constrains the amount of things that you can do. Then you have transaction costs and sub-efficient processes that was already mentioned by Yaro in his presentation. For example, when he was referring to the size, the ticket size, so the size of the projects that participate into some of the funding calls by, for example, InvestEU. When these projects or that candidate themselves to get the funding are too small, this increases the transaction costs, and obviously that leads to sub-efficient processes in terms of management due to high administrative coordination and compliance costs. Then you have discounting. Jaro was also hinting this in his presentation. Some of the projects that some of the tabs that can be funded in these calls are delivering returns into the future. We can think, for example, of nature-based solutions. They deliver most of the returns in the long term, and as a result of that, they are penalized by discounting, meaning that, I mean, human beings tend to value more the returns that are produced today as compared to returns that can be yielded over 20, 30, or 40 years into the future, which is the case in many nature-based solutions. And then you have data and information. This relates to what we are going to discuss over the next days of the Webstival, so technical constraints. Sometimes we don't have reliable data on the risks and expected performance, and there is increasing uncertainty. So that very much connected to Transcend. And then we have risk, which is related to data and information, but not only. So sometimes we even have very good data and information, or we can have risk. So essentially, water projects has in most cases face high perceived risk from climate, regulatory, and market uncertainties, and stakeholders, decision makers, are risk averse individuals, and that results in many cases, in decision makers refusing to implement the transformational change. So we have received now 15 of 21 responses. I could continue talking, but I guess we are a bit late. So I will advise to move next to the visualization of the results, Melissa and Rudy, if you can. And then we go into the opportunities. So this is essentially the result. As expected, because this is similar to what we saw in Valencia, by the way. So we saw something very similar in Valencia. I mean, these top six, actually top seven, eight priorities were very close to one another. So I wasn't expecting to have one in a clear leadership role, with a clear leading role here. In any case, as you can see, budgetary constraints, data and information, and transaction costs appear to be in a first tier as the most relevant barriers, and then we will have discounting, lock-in, and risk. It's more or less aligned. I have the results here in Valencia. It's more or less aligned to what we saw in Valencia. So it's good to see that we have more or less similar responses, which basically substantiate further the findings that we already had in the second international stakeholder workshop. So next, we are going to move into the opportunities, the discussion of opportunities. As I mentioned before, these are some of the limitations that we are facing. But yeah, we have to find a solution to them. And we have, as I was mentioning before, we have been building a very rich inventory of potential solutions to the barriers that we have identified first. But we want also to validate with you, to validate these answers with you. So here you have all the potential opportunities that you can leverage on to address the barriers that I was mentioning. And in the chat, if I'm not wrong, Melissa/Rudy shared the answers to the question. So you can go back to the chat and take a look at the answers in terms of relevance for the barriers. And based on the relevance that you assign to the barriers, I will ask you to identify what are the recommendations that you will prioritize to address these barriers. Okay, so we have two components in this very short survey. If you look at the chat, you have the barriers and the ranking that you have provided. And then here you have the potential solutions that we could, or opportunities that we could exploit to address them. So I'm going to ask you to rank again these solutions and give them a high priority or, well, middle or low priority, depending on how relevant you think they are. And yeah, based on that, we'll be also showing the results afterwards. As I was mentioning, this information is critical for us because this is what we are going to use for the validation of the inventory of barriers and opportunities that we have been producing by listening to all of your feedback as part of co-creation over the past 3 years. Well, as you respond, let me give you a brief update on what's the process that we're going to follow with this inventory of barriers and opportunities and the legacy of the project in terms of financial, institutional, and technical aspects. With the results that we have been collecting from all the activities of co-creation activities we have conducted over the Living Labs. We have already gathered, as I was mentioning, a very rich inventory of opportunities and barriers. This inventory of opportunities and barriers is being transformed right now into a policy notebook that we are going to share in due time with all of you when it's ready. And as part of this policy notebook, we are going to conduct over all the Living Labs, starting from the Orontes, which already conducted it, but following by all the other remaining 6 Living Labs. We are going to conduct with all these Living Labs a survey in which we are going to show you all the barriers that were identified, and we are going to ask you to give a weight or a score to each of these barriers. And based on this information, we would like to basically produce something similar to what you have seen in the previous slide. So essentially a ranking of the barriers and their relevance. And ideally, try to create a pathway in which we match some of all of the barriers with some of the relevant opportunities in the inventory. So this is the main objective that we have with this task. And this is going to be the first step towards this exercise. Only 10 people have replied. I mean, I would like to encourage you to reply further if possible, because this is, I mean, very useful to all of us. And having so many people participating in this call, it will be a pity if we only get less than 20% response rate of the participants. Um, However, for the sake of time, since we are running a bit late, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave I mean, I guess we can share the Menti through the slides as well, Melissa, and also people can continue responding while we move on to the next section of the Webstival, because otherwise we're going to be very late. Time is precious commodity now, considering we are already 5 minutes late. Um, so here you have the results. As I anticipated, quite disparate. We have some, well, a first year by pool projects and partnerships and 6 subsidies, grants, and state aid. Now subsidies, grants, and state aid are in the first position, which makes a lot of sense considering that many of the projects that we are addressing in Transcend, many of the TAPs are led by public institutions. So this is a key financial input towards the funding of these projects. Then we have pool projects and partnerships to address the transaction costs, and then we have bundle co-benefits and provide more training and expert technical assistance, which is connected again to the technical legacy and technical capacity building, which we're going to address in the next days of the Webstival. Okay, so thank you for these results. For this feedback, we are going to consider that, as I was mentioning in the inputs on the project, this information is critical, and we're going to go back to this stakeholder feedback and survey during during the next round of workshops that we're going to have across the different Living Labs. So now we move on to the next part of the Webstival, where we're going to have a Living Lab panel discussion. I'm going to stop talking because my role now is only that of facilitator. So yeah, essentially I'm going to be the one who warns the speakers when they are running out of time. We have with us Dinesh Kumar from our Living Lab in the Mahanadi in India. Then we have Safa Bakur and Adrià Rubio from our Living Lab in the Júcar in Spain. And we have also Majid Amchek from our Living Lab in the Orontes in Lebanon. So thank you all for being here. I invite you to turn on the camera and the microphone as well. We are going to start with the Mahanadi with Dinesh. So Dinesh, if you want to start sharing your screen and turning on your camera so that everyone can see you, that would be great. Um, Please remember, very quick reminder of
Uh,
the rules for
uh,
engagement. Oh,
Dinesh, I think it is not
okay. There you
okay.
say. There you go.
Okay,
So very briefly
then
before you start, Dinesh,
yeah,
you
yeah.
have remember each one of you has 7 minutes for the presentation. I will be
Okay,
letting you know whenever you have consumed the first five. I will tell you 2 minutes left. And then whenever you are done, I will say you time's up so that we have time for Q&As at the end. Please a reminder, if you have any Q&A, any question, use the Q&A box, okay, for all the participants in the meeting. Okay, Dines, the floor is yours.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about adaptation financing in the Mahanadi River Basin. It's one of the largest, it's probably the largest basin that the TRANSCEND project is working on. And the Mahanadi is in India. It's an interstate river basin. So there are two riparians. The upper riparian is Chhattisgarh state and the lower riparian is Odisha. So the interesting thing about Mahanadi Basin is actually it's a water-rich basin, but still there is a dispute going on between the two states over sharing of water. The total water resources in the basin is around 64,000 million cubic meters. But the surface water is a major source of water for irrigation, manufacturing, and thermal power and municipal water supply in the basin, in both the riparians. Okay. But the groundwater irrigation in the basin is growing, even in the canal command areas. But seasonal depletion of groundwater is a major problem in the hard rock areas, especially in Chhattisgarh state, that's upper riparian. Depletion affects water availability in Chhattisgarh more than Odisha. The basin experiences very high variability in rainfall with the droughts and floods. So you are not only dealing with the drought situations, but you're also dealing with the flooding situations. The annual yield of the basin is highly variable, with the very high flows during wet years and very low flows during dry years. If you look at the annual flows, it ranges from the discharge of the basin. It varies from as low as 20.5 billion cubic meters per annum to 125 billion cubic meters per annum. So it's in the order of magnitude of 1:6. That the competition for water exists between irrigation and industrial water supply in both the states. There's a lot of competition for the water. There is intense dispute over water allocation between the two riparians, as I mentioned. So this is a basin. Sorry, I didn't show it. So it shows the green shaded areas show the large irrigation systems at the command areas, and the yellow shaded areas show the medium irrigation systems at the canal command areas. Investing in water resource development is critical for economic development, and as we all understand, and for mitigating droughts and floods in the basin. Development of irrigation is seen as a strategy for drought resilience. Odisha has made large public investments in canal irrigation in the past in the basin, including the Hirakud Dam and the barrages. The proposals to make much more investments in large schemes in the coming years. Chhattisgarh is a relatively new entry in water resource investments after the state formation in 1999, but have started public investments for storage and diversion systems. Odisha, for instance, has already got 8 new schemes under construction, and 32 are proposed. Though new irrigation schemes are built in the name of agriculture development and water supply, the agencies are under enormous pressure to divert water for manufacturing and for industrial growth. The ability of the industries to pay a very high price for water is a very strong incentive for the states to divert water for irrigation. If you look at the past investments in irrigation in the basin, this is the data for 2012 and 13. We don't have the latest data. Chhattisgarh has invested $620 million so far for irrigation systems. If you look at the annualized cost of irrigation, it comes to around $75 per hectare, which is quite low. If you compare with the states like some of the water scarce states in the country, this cost is very low. The Odisha, the investment made so far for irrigation systems is $1.75 billion. And the cost per hectare is almost 2.5 times that of Chhattisgarh. It comes to $175 per hectare. And you look at the subsidies, the extent of subsidy that irrigation enjoys is 45% in Chhattisgarh and 79% in Odisha. Actually, this subsidy is not the real it's not that farmers are really paying for that the rest of it. It's a lot of cross subsidization is happening, and we'll see that. The financial investments, patterns, and returns. The investment in surface irrigation through canals is fully from public financing. Full cost recovery is not an objective in public irrigation investments, which is treated as a welfare measure in our country. Currently, volumetric pricing of surface water allocated from the public systems schemes is done only for the manufacturing sector. It's only for the manufacturing sector. There is measurement and then pricing accordingly. For agriculture, there is no volumetric pricing. Pricing is based on crop and area. Water is heavily subsidized. The industrial water charges are at least 300 times higher than that of irrigation. Rupees 15 to it varies. Even for the industries, it varies from 15 rupees to 300 rupees per cubic meter, depending on from which source you are tapping water and who makes investments for the system. Against 0.05 rupees per cubic meter for crop irrigation in Chhattisgarh, estimated on the basis of average depth of irrigation. A similar kind of pattern exists for in Odisha also. So revenue from irrigation systems is largely from cross subsidies from industries. If you look at the groundwater development financing, groundwater is de facto a private property in our country. The same is the case with the two states. Investment for groundwater development for irrigation are private and by individual farmers. Electricity used for groundwater pumping for irrigation is not charged by the state power utilities on the basis of consumption, and there is no metering of agro wells in any of the two states. There is heavy subsidy, state subsidy for electricity to support well irrigation, which can run into billions of dollars annually. The extent of subsidy in Chhattisgarh is 62.5%, and in Odisha, it is 70% at present. But electricity use in Odisha agriculture is very low due to heavy use of diesel engines for pumping water from shallow wells. There is no resource fee for agriculture groundwater pumping, so the farmers virtually get it free. They can pump as much as they want, depending how much the aquifer permits. The groundwater use in agriculture is therefore inefficient and unsustainable. Adaptation financing. Large-scale investments are made for watershed development and groundwater recharge schemes by the states for improving climate resilience for water systems, but with very little positive impact. Micro-irrigation uses agriculture is largely viewed by the government as a climate smart and as a climate smart and adaptation strategy. But there is heavy subsidy for micro-irrigation adoption, especially in the tribal areas. It goes up to 90% in the tribal areas. There is a heavy large tribal population in both the states. Though the area under crops that are amenable to micro-irrigation is very low in both the states. There is a large area under paddy cultivation, and the paddy, as you know, is not amenable to micro-irrigation systems like drips and sprinklers. Since farmers do not pay for water electricity, there is no clear economic incentive to save water through micro-irrigation. Too little adoption of MI in canal command areas due to technical constraints. So water saving really doesn't lead to income saving for the farmers. So there is no clear incentive there. So water saving is just an accidental thing with the micro-irrigation. Thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dines. I mean, so much interesting material in such little time, and I appreciate very much the effort you have done to synthesize all this and keep to the time. So I'm going to, I mean, we are now going to move to the next presentation. I will keep the Q&A for the very end, Dines, so please stay tuned because I'm sure there will be questions for your presentation. So next we're going to have Adrian Safa from the Hookah Living Lab. I don't know who's going to start, Adrian Safa?
I
Please
think
go ahead.
I will start, yes. So you can see the screen, I guess. Thank you, Diony, and all for the invitation here to talk about the financial.
Sorry, Adrian, the screen sharing is not on, I think, yet. So if you can share again.
Now I think
now it's loading. Yeah.
Okay, and you can probably see it now.
Now it's working. Great.
Okay, yes. So Safa and I were coming from the Technical University of Valencia to one of the partners of the TRANSCEND project to talk about the financial capacity building for transformational adaptation in the Hookah River Basin. Okay. So first, I will start with one slide about the Hookah River Basin for those who are not familiar with it. It is a classic Mediterranean basin facing an unstable balance between available water resources and agricultural demands. Agriculture alone consumes around 80% of the water. This creates strong upper-lower basin conflicts between farmers in the upper and in the lower basin. On top of that, the region also suffers from long and severe droughts that climate change is expected to make even worse. And we also have to manage floods. I'm sure you can remember the pictures and the images from the flooding that we had 1.5 years ago, no, in October 2024. And we also have to adapt to the rising temperatures within the city, no? So all these challenges mean that building capacity for adaptation is essential in the Hookah River Basin, no? And for that, Spain has developed a strong multi-level financing framework. At the top, we can see two major European and national sources feeding into the system. The Green Bond program in Spain has issued more than 12 million euros in green bonds across 2021, 22, and 23. These funds are especially allocated to climate change adaptation and resilience projects, and they also want to attract additional private and international investments, multiplying the impact of public money, into climate change adaptation. At the right, we can see European fundings, such as the Next Generation EU and the overall EU budget, including the recovery and transformational resilience plans and the cohesion policy funds. These are powerful instruments that are designed to support recovery while building long-term resilience in the river basins and in the country. And both streams, both of these sources of funding are channeling into the national budget and particularly into the PNAC, the National Plan for Adaptation to Climate Change, that takes place from 2021 until 2030. But from the national level, these resources, this financing has to flow down to the regions and the river basins, and that's where the actual implementation takes place. So all this is to say that at the center of the system for the river basin adaptation comes the water authority of the river basin, not the Hookah Water Authority. This Hookah Water Authority, they are a close stakeholder for us, for the university, the Technical University of Valencia. They are partners in the project, many projects, and they are one of the key stakeholders in TRANSCEND for us. We also participate with them in many European funding, European projects such as Horizon projects and LIFE projects. And that's also a way in which we as a university can incorporate our innovation, our ideas into the water authority plans, no? Because otherwise they have no way to participate in more transformative adaptation mechanisms that we are proposing, no? The next slide, I'm going to show some of the actions that they are proposing in the Hookah River Basin Management Plan. And you will see very quickly that most of these actions are very infrastructure heavy, very traditional ways of facing climate change, such as, modernizing irrigation. This is important. It has sometimes unexpected consequences, no? But the numbers made by the Hookah River Basin say that, we're going to save 180 millions of cubic meters each year. So this is important. Also flood protection for the Hookah, for the whole region at the south of Valencia, very specifically. We are now undergoing very heavy investments to increase the resilience of the area to the flooding, and also the ecosystem restoration, such as the ecosystem of Albufera, Valencia, in which we are investing a large amount of money as a region that is being implemented by the Hookah River Basin. As I said, these are very infrastructure-heavy plans, and that's why we are trying to propose different ideas. I think Safa will talk now about our ideas of incorporating other sources of innovation for climate resilience and how to finance that. Safa?
Hello, everyone. So as my colleague Adria highlight, financing adaptation option is essential to improve water efficiency, support ecosystem restoration, and reduce climate risk. However, adaptation policy have traditionally relied heavily on public subsidies, particularly for infrastructure. These approach is often reactive and not financially sustainable in the long term. Building true financial capacity for adaptation requires systems that can both mobilize investment and absorb shock. This implies a shift away from subsidy-based approach toward more integrated transformational financial framework grounded on risk sharing and co-responsibilities. In this context, agricultural insurance play a key role as a public-private partnership where farmers pay premium and receive compensation when extreme climate events occur. This helps to stabilize farmer income, reduce vulnerability, and strengthen the resilience of rural economics. Next, please. Within this border transition, our lab, through the TRANSCEND project, contribute to bridging scientific knowledge and practical application. So, drawing and advanced modeling work, we have developed a simple serious game to explore and test agricultural insurance mechanism under condition of uncertainty through stakeholder engagement. So our game consists in simulating the agricultural system of Hookah River Basin, where participants make decisions in crop selection and insurance use under uncertain water conditions. So through this interactive process, participants can explore how their decisions and choices influence both economic outcomes and water management across different climate scenarios. Next, please. So as you can see in the right side of the figure, the performance of agricultural insurance is evaluated based on the cumulative profit of each participant, including the role of insurance payout. This creates a practical environment for understanding trade-offs among risk, investment, and economic returns. Our games provide insight into how agricultural insurance shape decision-making process and help identify opportunities to improve its effectiveness and a resilient building tool. Next, please. So our game has been tested in both local and international workshop with the stakeholders, including water authorities and other interested agents. Next, please. So, and finally, to conclude, building financial capacity for transformational adaptation requires a combination from strong financial resources, targeted implementation, risk-sharing mechanism, and effective governance. And I want to add that a resilient future will depend on our ability to scale nature-based solution, embrace smart and digital water management, leverage private investment, and work together for more effective water allocation across sectors. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Safa and Adria. Again, I mean, you stick to the time, so I appreciate that very much. Now we are moving on to the next presentation, which is the last one by Majida Sheikh from who's connecting from Lebanon. Majida, I think you had some issues with the camera, but you can hear us, right?
Yes.
Okay, then please share the screen, and the floor is yours. Remember that you have 7 minutes, so at 11:30.
Did you see the presentation or not?
It's working now.
Okay, thank you. So first, thank you. I would like to thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel discussion, and also to give me this opportunity to speak about Orontes River. So I will start by an overview of the Orontes River. So, Orontes River is known in Lebanon by Al-Asi River. It is in Arabic language, or in Lebanon we say Al-Asi River. So it is a fundamental waterway in Western Asia that flows northward through Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey before going into Mediterranean Sea. It is originated from Ain al-Zarqa and Labwa Spring in Baalbek Hermel Governorate. And it is a vital economic and environmental lifeline for Lebanon, mainly supporting the Hermel in northern Bekaa regions, and it is a critical economic resource used mainly for irrigation, aquaculture, and tourism. So, but I didn't see well all the whole slide. Okay, no problem. So, to go back to the topic of the panel discussion, I will provide the financial capacity building for transformative adaptation at two levels, at governmental policy level and at local and institutional level. To start speak about governmental policy at governmental policy level, first, I need to speak about bilateral treaties between Lebanon and Syria and the financial capacity. Financial aspects of the river are defined by international agreement and significant planned infrastructure investment through Lebanon-Syrian agreement for water allocation and legal framework. The first agreement was in 1994 for river water shared, which is about 80 million cubic meter per year, and the right to use part of the upstream flow. The second agreement was in 1997. It was amendment agreement with the same quantity of water shared, but this amendment agreement allow Lebanon to build irrigation and water projects, dams, and canals. In 2002, sorry. Also, it is the last amendment treaty agreement between Syria and Lebanon. And in 2002, they reviewed the treaties of 94-97 and had amendment proposal of Orantes Project Development Agreement. The goal of amendment is to increase Lebanon water share to 96 million cubic meters per year and implementing others infrastructure activities. During the implementation of the amendment proposal project, the sites were bombed during the 2006 war in Lebanon, and the agreement's provision 97 and 2002 were not accomplished. So the 2002 agreement is stipulated according to the Lebanese Ministry of Energy and Water the following. In phase one, construction of 27 million cubic meter diversion dam, including 3 pumping stations and an irrigation network for 3,000 hectares. In phase two, construction of 37 million cubic meter dam and also including irrigation network for 3,800 hectares. And establish of a 50 megawatt hydroelectric power plant on the river bank. Also, an expansion of trout farms and development of livestock and dairy production had another goal with 2002 proposal linked to Orantes resources. But till now, and so far, the operation on the rivers were stopped, and no current solution or measures are in place now. So what we need now at governmental policy level for Orantes River is to have a new amendment agreement with the new regime in Syria to have a new treaty to benefit from the river. And also within this treaty, we should take in consideration different factors. From these factors, the climate change, the new technical solution, we should took all these in consideration to have a new treaty with a new regime in Syria. This is some information about the current situation at agriculture and food safety in the Asi River. Also, at the environmental and touristic level, what we have as economic current situation in Asi River. So also the river Asi was affected last year by drought that occurred in Lebanon in 2024-2025, and we have reduction of the rainfall in Hermel, which was around 60%, and the water level in the river was very low. Also, the reduction in water fly was about 30 to 50 million cubic meter per year, and the flow rate was 0.5 to 1 cubic meter per second. And also the farmers and fish farms had less water to use, and the reduction on the yield was about 30 to 60%. And we have also 20 to 50% was the reduction of trout fish production. Also, we reported we have also fish death and water quality degradation of the river. So while awaiting to have a new treaty with the new regimes in Syria, and also considering the climate change and the drought that occurred in Lebanon last year, we should be taking action at the local and institutional level, and to start define or to start speaking about financial capacity building for transformative adaptation. But before to start speaking about financial capacity building, we need to start by assessment study to undertake a detailed characterization of the river and performs a comprehensive assessment or update the existing one if it is available. And we should identify the technical solution and develop integrated technical solution for effective, optimize for sustainable river water management, flow regulation, and resource allocation, and also to take into consideration the pollution of water river. And also, to define the financial capacity building, a methodology, mechanism, and strategic plan should be developed with short, long-term action, and define a timeline with priorities and estimated cost. Then, after this strategic plan, we need to look for a source of funding. External funds through international donors, international organization, especially that the governmental funding is very limited in Lebanon due to the economic crisis that occurred in Lebanon in 2019. Also, in some action, we can speak about the blending financing. It means mix between local community and international donors. In Lebanon, we have governmental bodies which are responsible for disasters. We have High Relief Commission. It is responsible to compensate for the people who affected by disasters, nature disaster or war or explosion disasters. Now it is not well working because we have problem of economic crisis. We have also disaster risk management unit. It started in 2020. It is mainly work only on documentation and data monitoring. We have also disaster management fund. It is under the authority of Ministry of Agriculture, but this disaster management fund, it is till now, it is a draft law and still require review and ratification by Parliament, and still require to define the execution mechanism. This disaster management fund is responsible solely for covering natural disasters in the agriculture sector. Also, we have a GATO program. It is a green agri-food transformation for economic recovery. It is loan, sorry. It is soft loan from World Bank. It is around $200 million. We have from $200 million, we have $30 million are dedicated for water harvest, but the rivers in Lebanon are out of this program. Just we have small actions will be implemented with Litani River Authority. We have also in Lebanon a program called Agriculture Register. It is to register all the farmers in Lebanon. It is funded by WFP, World Food Program. And after the registers of all the farmers, we are working to have social and agriculture insurance for all. Yani we are preparing a document or a law to have insurance, social and agriculture insurance for all the farmers. And thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very useful. I was learning a lot. Thanks, Majida, for the very good presentation. I can see many connections already with I mean across the different living labs. For example, the last thing you were mentioning about agricultural insurance was reminding me of what Safa was presenting, the tool that they are considering for the hookah. But I mean, enough from my side. I'm going to ask Melissa and Rudy if they can update us on the questions that we may have received from the audience. Maybe I mean maybe we can take a couple of them, considering it's very late already. So we should be heading towards the wrap up. But maybe we have time for one or two very quick questions. Melissa, Rudy.
Thank you, Diony. Thank you, everybody. I'm looking at the Q&A and we haven't received any questions. So I think we definitely had a packed schedule today. So I certainly would invite everyone to join us back tomorrow, and we can continue answering questions in the discussions over the next 2 days of the Webstival. What do you think, Diony?
That's fine. I mean, I guess it was a very, yeah, as you were saying, very packed schedule. So yeah, we can head towards the conclusion then, if you agree, Melissa. So I wanted to finalize today by first of all inviting you to join tomorrow. As you know, tomorrow we'll be starting at 3 p.m. Set time. So watch out, because this is a project where the sun never sets. So we have different time zones. 3 p.m. European time. And then obviously, of course, I would like to I mean, give a big thanks to all the participants and speakers today, especially. So Yaro, Dines, Safa, Adria, and Majida, and especially a big shout out to Majida for joining us from Lebanon and making this excellent presentation on the management of financial aspects in the basin. I was learning very much about all the three basins, especially in the case of India and Lebanon, which are, despite all these years working together, still an area in which we have not been working for so long. I hope it was equally useful for all the participants. We have different, obviously, contexts and different situations in which financing has to be managed in a different way. But I think that the tools that were provided by Yaro were useful for all basins, especially in Europe, but I mean also outside, considering also the funding that he was mentioning from the Santiago. So, I mean, there are many opportunities for accessing this funding. And obviously, I mean, very much connected to the question I received through email. I guess that the first step is to sit down together and start assessing what are the key gaps and issues and needs from the different living labs. And there, after that, we can start tapping into the resources that are made available at the EU level, but also beyond that. So I would like to conclude today by inviting all of the speakers, obviously, but especially all of the participants who have been following silently these presentations, to start thinking of their needs in the needs that they are experiencing in the labs. Do a critical assessment similar to what Dina, Safa, Adrian, Majida have been doing today. Identify what are the key gaps that they are facing and how we can help them, where and how we can help them. Because as Jaro was mentioning, this is the critical next step. I mean, we need to start a dialogue and see where is the need and how the project can contribute to this need. Maybe we cannot address all of the needs, but hopefully we can build a bridge that addresses some of the gaps that are persisting and have been highlighted already by many of the speakers. So with this, I will finalize. I will again invite you to join us tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thank you for being here. I think we had a very good number of a very good participation. Hopefully tomorrow we make the Q&A work and we get some questions because I think that the presentations today were excellent and they very much deserved a longest discussion and Q&A on this topic. So thank you all. Thank you to all the speakers, all participants, and see you tomorrow again.